He approaches Sahara and gives her advice, the same words his father had told him in the past. But he had been unable to understand them up until now. No matter how hard things get, if you can laugh them off, one day you will find happiness on the way back. Greed congratulates Fate on learning his first technical skill, the one-handed sword technique, a secret technique that allows him to attack twice in a single strike. Fate thinks he got lucky against the kidnapper, and he is determined to get stronger so that he can win without relying on luck. The following day, Fate arrives at the Hart family estate, where Roxy greets him at the gate, and he is taken aback by her appearance. She takes him to the grave of her recently deceased father, revealing that he was killed 5 days ago in Gallia. Gallia is a continent dominated by monsters, and it's the duty of holy knights to keep them in check. Roxy explains that this duty fell to the Hart family this year, but unfortunately, a divine dragon came out of a 1,000-year solitude, wiping out the group led by her father. She tells him that she is currently the of the house, and she is looking forward to working with him. As they are about to shake hands, Fate remembers that his telepathy will be activated, so he points towards a random person. We meet the chief man, Haru, who reminds Fate to conduct himself as a servant of the Hard family. A week goes by as Fate continues to work. In the hardest days, he's talking with the other servants when his stomach starts to growl, shocking the other servants because they just ate lunch. He is called to meet Roxy, but his stomach continues to growl, and even Fate is confused by what is happening. Roxy tries to have a conversation with him, but he keeps thinking about why he's so hungry. Roxy snaps him out of it, and the two relate over their dead fathers because they were both killed by monsters. She considers him as a member of the family, causing him to become flustered, but he suddenly loses consciousness. He wakes up in his room, where he sees a note from Roxy telling him to take the day off. Fate questions Greed about his hunger, and Greed reveals that it is due to gluttony. More souls Fate consumes, the stronger he'll become, but at the same time his desire will also grow stronger, and he is destined to seek out souls to consume until the day that he dies. Greed tells Fate that when his hunger is at its limit, it will show in his eyes, and he realizes that his eyes are red. Fate goes outside and walks by a group of people thinking they smell delicious, as Greed explains that his hunger boost has kicked in because his hunger is at its limit. Greed explains that it's a temporary power that helps him hunt prey, and the prey can be tracked by scent, saying weaker prey will be paralyzed by fear. We see them go outside the kingdom and find several goblins. Terrified, Fate massacre all of them and heads towards the hobgoblin forest. He continues to kill for several hours until his hunger is finally satisfied, but a goblin king appears out of nowhere, and he uses his identify skill. We see that they're both almost equal in terms of stats, but the Goblin King has a health regeneration skill. Fate goes after the Goblin King and is disgusted to see the goblin devour a human. He launches a surprise attack, slicing off its arm, and the fight goes on, but all he can do is dodge its attacks. Greed tells him to attack, so he charges in, managing to overpower it, and he lands the finishing blow. Fate stats increase significantly, and he gains the health regeneration skill. Greed reveals that with Fate's current stats, he can unlock Greed's first level in exchange for his stats. Greed explains that the first level will give him new functions, but Fate is shocked to learn that he needs to hand over all the stats he gained since they met. Greed reveals that Fate will lose the right to wield him if he doesn't unlock him, so Fate agrees to do it. He begins the process, and Fate can feel his power leaving his body as Greed transforms into a magic bow. He tells Fate that there is a goblin watching them, and he teaches how to use the bow, which creates magic arrows. When his string is pulled, telling him that he can aim wherever he wants, but the arrow will always hit its target. Fate takes the Goblin King's ears, and he leaves it at the orphanage door as he believes that they need it more. The next day, Fate stops an intruder, but turns out it's Roxy dressed up as a peasant, trying to secretly go to town for inspection. She brings Fate along with her, and on the way to town, she asks Fate to show her his sword, but he's afraid that she might figure something out. After she sees it, the sword slips from his hand and Roxy catches it, but fortunately doesn't notice anything. She tells Fate that the sword needs some maintenance, saying she will take him to the Hart family's blacksmith. They finally reach the town and are standing at a stall when everyone tenses up. As a holy knight approaches, Fate's stomach growls at the worst possible time, angering the holy knight. The knight tries to step on him, but Roxy stops him, catching everyone's attention. Every is looking at Roxy, trying to figure out if the peasant girl is actually Miss Roxy. Greed tells Fate that if they act as a couple, no one will think that the peasant girl is actually Roxy. Overhears this plan when Fate replies to Greed, thinking it's a good idea, so she goes along with it and they start acting like a couple, convincing everyone that the girl is not Roxy while everyone is distracted. They both slip away and they hide in the corner. Fate hears her thoughts as she thinks about how her heart is raised because this is the first time she has locked arms with a boy. Roxy decides that they need to keep moving, and they overhear people talking about all the dead goblins that were recently found. The rumors are that it was done by a wandering monster, but it doesn't explain why the goblin ears were donated to the orphanage in the slums. She asks Fate to take her where the warriors gather, saying she wants to investigate the wandering monster. Fate takes Roxy to the bar, where the bartender reveals that he has heard about a warrior who struck old when he found a mountain of goblin corpses with their ears still intact. Roxy believes that it must have been a monster from a different region, and the bartender thinks this is bad for business because a lot of merchants travel through those goblins plains, so people won't travel because they fear that a monster might attack them. An old man enters the bar, and he joins the conversation, telling them the monster is a lich, which is why the holy knights are directly dealing with him. A group of warriors enter the bar and tell Roxy to join them for fun. Roxy pushes the man lightly, but he is sent crashing to the other side of the room, and they realize that only a holy knight can have that much power. Roxy finally reveals her identity, and the warriors apologize, trying to give her all the money they have, but she rejects it, telling them not to fear the holy knights as she reveals that she dreams of a world where commoners and holy knights can laugh together. They go to the blacksmith, who finishes maintenance on Greed, so he now looks like a new sword while going through town. Roxy explains that she didn't know about the hunt because it's being led by the Varric family, and they simply didn't tell her. We see Had holding a child, explaining that he is simply taking a lost child into protection, but Fate takes the boy away and Roxy tells them that they will take care of him. Roxy asks Raphael why she was not informed about the hunt, and he says that he didn't want to bother her, as she must have been busy mourning her father. The verse decide to leave while Fate and Roxy take the boy to find his mother, allowing him to reunite with her. After returning home, Fate asks Greed for a way to hunt monsters without Roxy finding out, and the next day Greed tells him to buy a mask with perception warping magic, which will make him look different to whoever sees him. We see that Raphael has gathered the knights in a dark room, and they discuss the excursion to Gallia. Sometime later, a group of warriors find more dead goblins, and they look up to find a lich standing on mountain of corpses. The terrified warriors call it a corpse, and they run away as we see Fate enjoy the nickname given to him. The next day, Roxy goes up to Fate and tells him to go with her because she has a secret mission for him. They both get in a carriage and pass through the Hart family's vineyard to arrive at their destination, where Roxy's mother Aisha is standing at the door. Roxy introduces Fate as a servant she recently hired, and Aisha asks Fate if he likes Roxy, causing them to become flustered, but Aisha explains that she wants to know his opinion of Roxy as a boss, and Fate says that he would like to serve her until the end of his life. Roxy is flustered and she runs to her room, where she looks at a picture of her father. And that's for today. If you want next part, subscribe the channel. Thanks for watching.